There is a story we often tell about champions. We see the moment on the podium, the finished masterpiece, the record-breaking performance. We see the result, and we call that greatness. But this is like admiring a beautiful cathedral and believing it appeared in a single miraculous moment. We see the soaring spire, but we forget the years spent in the quarry, the endless days of laying one heavy stone upon another, often in the cold and the dark. The true architecture of a champion is not built with bricks and mortar, but with something far more fundamental, a mindset. It is an invisible framework, an internal compass that guides every choice long before the external world takes notice. This mindset begins with a quiet yet radical understanding. The goal is not to be a champion. The goal is to think like one, and a champion thinks not in terms of outcomes, but in terms of process. The finish line is a distant, abstract concept. The next step, however, is everything. It is the only thing. It is the quality of the breath during a morning run when no one is watching. It is the decision to review the footage one more time, to write one more paragraph, to play the scale until the fingers ache with memory. The champion's mind is rooted in the sacredness of the daily ritual, finding profound meaning in the monotonous, understanding that excellence is not an event, but 1,000 small, faithful repetitions. This mindset also embraces a unique relationship with failure. For most, failure is a stop sign. It is a verdict, a reason to turn back. But for the champion's mind, failure is not a full stop. It is the most critical piece of data. It is the text that must be read, analyzed, and understood. A failed attempt is not a reflection of their worth, but a detailed map of the territory they have yet to master. It answers the question, what do I not know yet? Where is the weakness I can now transform into strength? This mindset does not fear falling down. It values the clarity that comes from knowing exactly what tripped you up. We are captivated by the spectacle of achievement. The moment the confetti falls, the record is broken. The gold medal is placed around an athlete's neck. We see this final public triumph and we call it greatness. We believe that this is the moment a champion is made. This focus on the destination, however, is a fundamental misunderstanding of the entire journey. It is like believing a majestic oak tree sprang forth from the soil in its full towering glory, ignoring the decades of silent, unseen growth happening beneath the surface, the roots pushing deeper into the dark earth, season after season. The true architecture of a champion is not built in a single, brilliant moment of victory. It is constructed over years, through an invisible framework of thought, discipline, and perspective. This framework is the mindset, and it is the absolute prerequisite for any external success. Before the body can perform extraordinary feats, the mind must be wired to endure, to focus, and to find meaning in the mundane. This internal scaffolding is what allows a person to bear the immense weight of expectation, to withstand the pressure of competition, and to continue building when progress seems imperceptible to the outside world. This mindset is the silent architect that designs every action long before the world sees the final structure. It is the internal compass that guides the choice to wake up an hour earlier, to practice one more repetition, or to study a failure with forensic curiosity instead of shame. While others are dreaming of the podium, the champion's mind is focused on the precision of the next footfall, the technique of the next stroke, the clarity of the next thought. The external achievement is merely the physical manifestation of this meticulously constructed internal world, the cathedral that finally becomes visible to all, but whose true strength lies in the deep, unseen foundation. This framework is not built with grand, sweeping gestures, but with the quiet, consistent laying of one small stone after another. Each stone is a choice, the choice to prioritize recovery over distraction, to value feedback over flattery, to embrace discomfort over comfort. This mindset understands that the glorious spire is entirely dependent on the strength of the foundation, and that foundation is built in the dark, in the quiet, in the patient, and often lonely work of laying one stone at a time, trusting that the blueprint, the vision of the finished cathedral, will one day be realized, but never at the expense of the integrity of the next brick being laid. The invisible framework is, therefore, the ultimate source of all visible success. It is the non-negotiable internal structure that makes the external glory not only possible, but sustainable. We are conditioned to see failure as a full stop. It feels like a verdict, a final judgment on our idea, our ability, or our very potential. The sting of a setback is the pain of a story we believed was moving forward, suddenly hitting a dead end. In the face of failure, our instinct is often to retreat, to hide the evidence of our miscalculation, and to protect our ego from further damage. We see it as a destination we never wanted to reach, and so we turn back, believing the path behind us is safer than the one that led to this disappointment. The champion's mindset performs a radical alchemy on this experience. It refuses to see failure as a stop sign. Instead, it is treated as the most critical piece of data available. A failed attempt is not a biography of your inadequacy. It is a rigorous, unflinching experiment that has yielded a priceless result. It answers the question, what happens when I approach the problem in this specific way? The answer is now known, it does not work. This is not a tragedy, it is the elimination of a dead end, which is invaluable information for anyone trying to navigate a complex journey. This mindset approaches failure with the cool detachment of a scientist and the curiosity of an explorer. There is no emotional drama attached to the point, only a relentless drive to understand its components. Why did this approach falter? Was it a flaw in technique, timing, strategy, or preparation? What specific variable led to the breakdown? This process of forensic analysis transforms the amorphous, painful cloud of failure into a collection of discrete, solvable problems. The champion does not ask, what is wrong with me, but rather, what did this outcome reveal that I need to address? This reframing is empowering because it places agency back into your hands. If failure is a verdict, you are passive, sentenced by an impartial world. But if failure is data, you are active, an investigator who has just been handed a crucial clue. You are no longer a victim of the outcome, you are the student of it. This data becomes the raw material for your next iteration, the blueprint for your next attempt. It tells you precisely where to focus your energy, which weaknesses to fortify, and what assumptions to discard. Therefore, the journey of improvement becomes a continuous loop of experimentation and feedback. Each effort, whether it leads to a win or a loss, generates data. The champion's mind is a sophisticated processor of this data, constantly updating its internal model, refining its approach, and inching closer to a solution through a process of intelligent elimination. The goal is not to avoid failure, but to mine it for every ounce of insight it contains. In this mindset, the only true failure is the failure to learn, to adapt, and to allow the data from a setback to inform and improve the next courageous attempt. We often imagine the path to greatness as a crowd-sourced endeavor, fueled by cheering sections, supportive mentors, and a vibrant community. While external support can be a comfort, this image dangerously misrepresents the core truth of the work itself. The most profound transformations, the moments where skill is truly forged and character is crystallized, do not happen in the spotlight. They occur in the quiet, unobserved corners of our lives. The champion's path is, at its essence, a path of profound solitude. This solitude is not about loneliness, which is a feeling of lack. This is a chosen, purposeful aloneness. It is the decision to close the door on the noise of the world, the opinions, the expectations, the constant stream of external validation, to face the only conversation that truly matters, the one you have with your own limits. In this silent space, there is no one to perform for, no audience to impress. There is only you, the raw material of your current ability, and the demanding vision of what you seek to become. This is where you must confront, with unflinching honesty, the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It is in this solitude that the real work is done, the extra repetition when your muscles are screaming to stop. The hour spent analyzing a defeat without the buffer of a friend's consolation. The patient practice of a skill that shows no immediate improvement. These acts are not glamorous. They are not designed for social media. They are transactions between you and your future self, sealed not with applause, but with sweat and silent resolve. This is where you build the internal covenant, a sacred promise you make to yourself that is too fundamental to be broken. This covenant is not witnessed by anyone else. yet it becomes the bedrock of your entire endeavor. It is the promise that you will show up even when you don't feel like it, that you will tell yourself the truth about your progress, and that you will hold yourself accountable to the highest standard you can conceive. This self-reliance is the champion's ultimate source of strength. When the crowd's cheers inevitably fade and you are left alone with the pressure of a critical moment, you cannot rely on external motivation. You must draw from a well you have been digging in private for years. The confidence that carries you through is not the memory of past praise, but the deep, earned knowledge of your own discipline. You know what you are made of because you have spent countless hours alone, testing your own mettle and proving to yourself that you can be trusted. Therefore, the ability to not just endure but to embrace this solitude is a non-negotiable trait of the champion's mindset. It is the furnace where reliance on others is burned away, leaving behind the pure, resilient alloy of self-trust. The podium is shared with the world, but the path to it is walked alone, and it is on that quiet, personal road that a champion is truly made. We often fall into the trap of believing that massive success requires a single, equally massive action, a heroic leap, a lucky break, a moment of divine intervention that changes everything in an instant. We wait for that thunderclap of inspiration, that perfect alignment of stars, believing it will catapult us to the finish line. This fixation on the grand gesture, however, is the enemy of genuine, sustainable achievement. It causes us to devalue the small, unspectacular, yet infinitely powerful acts that constitute the true engine of mastery. The champion's mind is immunized against this deception. It understands a fundamental law of the universe, that greatness is not born in a blaze of glory, but constructed in the quiet, patient accumulation of 1,000 small, faithful repetitions. The master pianist did not sit down and play a concerto. They first dedicated thousands of hours to the monotonous practice of scales, arpeggios, and finger exercises. Each repetition was a vote for a future of fluency. The champion runner did not simply decide to win a marathon. They first committed to countless mornings of lacing up their shoes and logging miles, often in the rain, in the dark, and through fatigue. Each step was a deposit into the bank of their endurance. This philosophy transforms the nature of work itself. The goal is no longer the distant, abstract victory. The goal becomes the quality of this repetition, right now. Is my form perfect on this lift? Is my focus absolute on this drill? Is my intention clear in this moment of practice? By shrinking the frame of focus from the overwhelming totality of a grand ambition to the manageable simplicity of the immediate task, the mind bypasses anxiety and finds a state of flow. The journey ceases to be a daunting mountain to climb and becomes a series of individual steps, each one taken with care and presence. These repetitions are faithful because they are performed with a belief in a future that is not yet visible. There is no immediate reward for the 10,000th practice swing of a golf club. There is no applause for the writer who diligently writes their 500 words before sunrise for the 100th day in a row. The faith is in the process itself, the unshakable conviction that this daily, disciplined application of effort is weaving an invisible tapestry of competence that will one day be revealed in its full splendor. It is the understanding that the body and mind are adaptive systems, and that through consistent, correct stimulus, they will reorganize themselves into a higher state of capability. Therefore, the champion does not seek a shortcut. They understand that the repetitions are not the boring prelude to success. They are the very substance of it. The beautiful sculpture is hidden within the marble block, and it is only through the relentless, repeated strikes of the chisel, each one seemingly insignificant on its own, that the masterpiece is finally released. The power of this process lies in its compounding nature. A single repetition builds nothing, but 1,000 build a habit, 10,000 build a skill, a lifetime of them forges a legacy. The champion's mindset is, at its core, a deep and abiding trust in the profound power of showing up, day after day, and doing the small, right thing over and over again, until excellence becomes who you are, not just what you do. We often speak of commitment and discipline as if they are contracts we sign with a coach, a team, or the public. We make New Year's resolutions and announce our goals to the world, hoping that external accountability will lock us into the path. While this can be helpful, it pales in comparison to the power of a commitment made in the silent chambers of your own conscience. This is the most potent and unbreakable bond you will ever form. The champion's journey is not sustained by the fear of letting others down, but by the profound, non-negotiable weight of an internal covenant, a promise made to oneself that is too sacred to break. This covenant is not written on paper or declared aloud. It is etched into the will. It is the quiet, unwavering decision you make with yourself before you ever step onto a public stage. It is the promise that you will not cut corners, even when no one is watching. It is the vow to respect your body with proper rest and fuel, even when temptation beckons. It is the commitment to get up and train on the morning you feel most depleted, not because a coach is demanding it, but because you promised yourself you would. This is a covenant with your future self, an act of deep self-respect that declares, "My word to me is my bond." The power of this internal covenant lies in its inviolability. External pressures can be negotiated. A coach can be pleaded with, a team can forgive a lapse, but when you break a promise to yourself, the damage is not relational, it is foundational. It erodes the very bedrock of your self-trust. Each time you honor the covenant, however, you deposit strength into your core identity. You prove to yourself that you are the kind of person who does what they say they will do. This forged self-trust becomes the ultimate source of your confidence. It is not based on talent or past wins, but on the proven knowledge of your own reliability. This is what separates a fleeting moment of motivation from a lifetime of mastery. Motivation is fickle and external, it comes and goes like the weather, but an internal covenant is a permanent feature of your character, like the bedrock beneath the soil. When the storm of doubt, pain, or distraction hits, and it always does, it is this deep personal covenant that holds you fast. You do not continue because you feel like it. You continue because you gave your word. The promise itself becomes the engine. Therefore, the most critical work of building a champion is not done in the gym or on the track first. It is done in the quiet of your own mind, where you define your non-negotiables and swear a silent oath to uphold them. This covenant becomes your inner coach, your most demanding critic, and your most loyal supporter. It is the unwavering voice that reminds you of who you decided to be long before the world had an opinion. In the end, the greatest triumphs are not those celebrated by crowds, but those where you stand alone with your accomplishment and know, in the deepest part of your being, that you kept the most important promise of all, the one you made to yourself.